Buenos dias, camaradas. Thank you for joining in for another episode of Andragogy of the Oppressor, where we talk about the tips and tricks for global domination. Today we're going to talk about a very important thing, and that's how you should live your life. Now, before you begin living your life, we can talk about things like morals and ethics. This is not a justification for you to live a moral or ethical life. In fact, there's no benefit, no rational justification for living a moral or ethical life. However, things like morals and ethics exist, so you need to be aware of what they are and where they come from. And I can see that some of you are struggling with this issue, so it's something that I kind of wanted to address to the rest of the class. So the primary difference between morality and ethics is morality is an internal system. It's an internality, kind of how we make sense and understanding of our world as an agent moving throughout our environment. Morality typically is a result of intuition and experiences that we gain throughout our life, how we should and should not behave, basically, within our own internal system. They're, along with being an internal force or an internal motivator, they're kind of universal. You take your morality with you wherever you go. The opposite is ethics. Ethics is an externality, kind of like a net that we put over ourselves and society. Think of ethics as like the rules of the game you should play by, the external rules of the game that you may be currently engaged in. Ethics are typically defined between principles and agents or between two separate agents. For example, how would you behave if you were naked walking through the forest and you encountered another stranger who was naked in the forest? Would you act towards them aggressively? Would you try and kill and eat them? These are ethics, these kinds of things. How do we exist as more than one creature, as a superorganism? How do we exist as society is kind of like how ethics arrives or where it's derived from. Ethics are proximial. So you'll have things like business ethics or legal ethics or ethics of the law or things like that. In fact, many times in society, there's no good outcome, no reward for being ethical or being moral. The devil walks on a broad avenue in the sunlight. So if you lie or cheat or steal or kill, very rarely are there negative consequences that you're going to see as a result of this. In fact, being unethical will oftentimes win you at the game or help you win the game that you're playing. If you can do something unethical against an opponent who is always behaving ethical, you'll eventually get an advantage over them. And if you're someone who comes out and tries to live a moral life, people who are immoral or amoral will line up around the block to try and tear you down or prove how you're not moral. In society, we don't add rewards or consequences to ethical or unethical behavior. We look at more or less outcomes. And so you can get tons of positive rewards and tons of positive consequences for being unethical. And most times you'll find that when you look into the rules of being unethical or failing to follow an ethic code, the worst consequence you're going to face is maybe a fine or a suspension or something along those lines. Very rarely is there some kind of major consequence associated with being unethical. And when we do this in society, we don't put a reward system for being moral or ethical in society because we don't want people to be moral and ethical. If I go into society and I act in an ethical way because I'm rewarded for behaving ethical, then I'm not doing the ethical thing just solely for the purpose of being ethical. I'm doing it for the reward or the good outcome that I would have. And so in society, we don't necessarily reward ethical or immoral behavior. These are just some things to think about as you motor about your world and try and conquer things. Now me, as a global domination class political consultant, I operate from a standpoint of absolutely pure, unquestionable, beyond reproach ethics and morality. And the reason I do this is because as an agent, my method of survival in this world has come or has been perpetuated through exceedingly high performing teams. Teams that you would dream to be on. This is how I survive. I surround myself with highly qualified people. And so I always act from a pure ethical, pure moral position because I'm waiting for those others around me to act in unethical or immoral ways. And this, to me, as a team member, reveals defects in character and flaws of thinking and the inability to delay gratification. And these are the kinds of things I'm looking for when I'm building a team. Because I only want people who are dedicated, hardworking, inspirational, the kind of people, you would want to lay down your life for if things were getting really bad. So I thank you for taking this break and learning about morals and ethics and how they impact you in your life. And just kind of as a recap, morals are an internality, internal, and ethics are external. Morals, you go wherever you go, you take your morals with you. Ethics change upon who you're dealing with and what's happening. So then why do we care about things like ethics and morality? Well, if we do ethics correctly as a society, as a whole, as a people, society, the city, the polis, your nation will be far more harmonious if you engage in ethical behavior. However, there's no reward, personal reward, that you may see or receive or achieve from being moral and ethical. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day. I love you.